Still wonder how that you are making it right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We'll be starting in a moment.
You showed me how to reach for the best of myself. It's all you showed me. 'Cause even if I fall, trust you.
And one more minute. I'm just going to let everybody else in. In that time, please take a look at our upcoming offerings.
Still wonder how you always make it right. Still wonder how you always make it right. Maybe it's all change, but either way, you showed me how to reach for the best of myself. It's all you showed me. 'Cause even if I fall, trust you, stay.
All right, everybody. I'm just going to get these recordings started. Hello, my name is Alexandra. Hello, everybody. I will be your moderator today. I would love to warmly welcome Terry Moten, MBA. She is the hostess with the mostest today. She's going to be taking us through her session. I'm going to drop the resources that she's provided into the chat, and it'll also be available at the end of the session in the Circle community. And please feel free. This is a very interactive webinar, so please don't hesitate to type in the chat, raise your hand, come off mic. Terry is incredibly adept at making sure that everybody is responded to. And with that, welcome you all and take it away, Terry.
So welcome everybody. I am glad you were able to tune in for those that are live and then those that are going to be watching the replay. So one of the things I will apologize up front, you will always be able to tell when I am in Austin at my daughter's because she's got this crazy natural light that flows in here. So again, at times you may see my screen get a little bit darker and then get a little bit lighter. And on top of that, I have a whole eye thing going on where I've got an inflammation in one of the eyes and this ring light is blinding me. So you may see me squint at times, but we're going to get through it. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to start moving forward. We're going to do session 3 of getting booked locally. And again, it's about how you become more of that expert in your local area, in your region, and being able to get booked for speaking engagements, training engagements, and things like that. So I am going to share my screen and let me check. Anyone here that's on live? Is this your first time joining live, or I know most of you I think have been on previous sessions, but is it their first time joining live? And there goes that darn natural light thing happening. So everybody's been here. Okay, first time. Christopher, welcome, welcome, welcome. And do you go by Chris or Christopher? Heather, welcome, welcome. John, welcome. Glad you joined in. Okay, go by Chris. Perfect. So what you all, again, especially if you have not been in one of my classes or one of my trainings. And is it Rosie? So is it Rosie or
Raji.
is Raji? Perfect. Okay. Because I always want to try to make sure I pronounce people's names right. But we're going to be very interactive. I don't just sit here and lecture. We're going to really be talking about especially today, it's tackling what's holding you back from really moving forward and starting to book trainings, book speaking engagements, and things like that, because I want you to really feel comfortable that, and you'll hear me say it all the time, you'll hear a lot of us say it in the community, you are most likely more ready than you will ever realize. So let me share my screen, and we're gonna kind of go through some things here. All right. Throw this in presentation mode. And so what we're doing today, again, like I said, what we're really talking about is how many of you have the concerns, okay, I would like to go out there and start being booked or get booked more, but I feel like I'm not ready. If you feel like that, drop a 1 in the chat. If you feel you're not quite ready to go out there and start booking. Okay, so some of you are feeling like that. For those who did not say they're feeling like that, trust and believe I am going to be on your behinds to get out there. And for those who are feeling like that, again, we're going to walk through a number of things that you're going to be able to do or you should consider doing to really go ahead and start putting yourself out there. So what's going to happen today is we're really looking at what's the blocker? And it's several different things a lot of you may be feeling. So we're going to walk through some of those things. I also provided in addition to this slide deck, I have provided a downloadable that you can do that kind of walks you through, a couple of scripts, make them your own, don't certainly use it kind of verbatim, but some things you can do when you're reaching out via email, via LinkedIn. And we're going to look at kind of handling objections. There's typically 2 or 3 that tend to come up more often than not. And I want to make sure that you are equipped to be able to handle those things. And okay, so you're here for the messaging. Perfect, Joel, that's perfectly fine. And if you are able to, Joel, please feel free to either come off mute or drop in the chat. What will you be looking to do then? And how is messaging going to help?
First and foremost, I like how you kind of lay things out. It's, in my opinion, very easy to follow. I get exactly what you're talking about. This is just not what I do. I'll be looking to be basically like, maybe I'll go get a job as a engineer with OpenAI or something like that. I'm not going to be the person sitting there talking to CAIOs all day long. So.
Got you. Understand. So you're like, so I see there where you're talking about, you're looking kind of more for messaging, kind of things that are going on, that are happening, and things that are being said kind of out with people.
Yeah. And I love getting those little pearls of wisdom too. So
awesome. So much, Joel. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So let's keep on going. And one of the things, again, you have heard me say it multiple times. For anybody who has heard me train before, you've heard a lot of the CAIOs in the community say, you don't have to know everything to start. There's kind of 3 clear areas that I want you to think about. Is number 1, whenever you are going to book some type of an engagement. So if it is going to be something where you are, tailoring a workshop, let's say a workshop or some type of speaking engagement or a training. If you are tailoring something for a particular group, what you've got to do is you have to make sure there's a clear outcome. You've got to make sure that you are letting people know, here's what I'm going to go over today. Here's what you're going to learn, and that they have something that's clear and implementable. one of the things that I'll share is that will make you so much of a stronger presenter, a stronger trainer, is when they walk away. Please remember this. They have to be able to go away and implement at least one or two things that they learned. And my goal is always letting them know you'll be able to leave after this session and implement things. People don't have time just to come and hear, you go on and give information for information's sake. And a lot of times when you're going through training, you're going to have to, or just a speaking engagement, you're going to have to tell people what's important. Because if you are dealing with, especially a non-tech business audience, as they're hearing what you're saying, they may not grasp what are the really important pearl nuggets they need to walk away with and that they can go and implement with. So for any of you who are more seasoned, what I would call seasoned trainers, and let me get you all, if you are what I would call a season, or if you have done training before, it doesn't have to be AI, but anything that you might have had a domain expertise in, something that's in your occupation. If you've done training before, drop in the chat what you've done training on. And again, whether it was workshops, whether it was at conferences, whether it was with your own team in if it's your business or in your company, drop in the chat what you have done, one or two topics that you've done training on before. Because I want to take a look. And if you have not done training at all, then drop a one in the chat. If you have not done training at all, drop a one in the chat. And I don't care if you were, training the PTA on something that, again, doesn't even have to be business related, but if you've done any type of training before. Okay, so a couple have not, and we've got some that have. Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right. So in terms of training, like I said, one of the things to remember, and especially if you're kind of new to the training world, like I said, and I'm keeping on harping this because this is something that, again, write down that you really need to know, is you've got to have that clear outcome. What are people walking away with? Right now we have, and I might have mentioned it in the last session, but there's something what I call, it is like professional, basically, professional education. And we're out, most people are out getting and it really more so professional consumers of education and information is what a lot of people have turned into, especially after the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, we were all locked down. We were all on YouTube, going to YouTube University, trying to learn everything in the world that we felt might have been applicable to us. And people have got into that learning mode. So they'll sign up for your workshop. They'll sign up for your training. But you want to make sure they walk away with something implementable. And you want to make sure, again, in the beginning, especially if you are going to be dealing with a non-tech business audience, you have got to allay their fears up front, because they have been to numerous AI trainings, and it has been highly technical. They didn't think it was going to be, but it was presented by someone who may have had, again, that data science or that IT background and didn't really break it down into layman's term and didn't use that tech jargon. So you've got to make sure you've got it that is very, again, if it's a beginner-friendly audience, that's beginner-friendly. And you've got to be able to judge the audience. And the way you judge is, number one, you ask up front, the audience kind of get an idea of, hey, where do you feel you are in terms of your use of AI, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many are at a 1 or 2, how many are at that middle layer, how many are experts. If you have a chance to talk to the organizer If you're being called in to do a conference or a workshop for an organization, if you can talk to the organizer and maybe get a better idea of where people stand, that way you know how to really tailor what you're talking about. But one of the things you have to be really skilled at is being able to present to a mixed audience. Because in a lot of things that you do, and especially if you're doing it for, again, a chamber, an EDC, an economic development corporation, anything like that, an industry, if you're doing it for an industry meeting or a conference, you will have people at varying levels. And you have to make sure everyone in there, as much as possible, get some type of nugget that they can walk away from the beginner to those that are most proficient. One of the things that you will hear as well, and you've probably heard me say this before, many people are going to say, "Oh, I'm really proficient. I'm using AI every day," but they're using it more as a task assistant. They're using it to, again, write emails and do those simple things. And then you have to, or again, I would encourage you, is, kind of at the end of that workshop, you need to think about having some type of pathway in leading that audience back to you, some type of offering for them. Now, one of my, and I'll, very transparently, one of my downfalls was, I wouldn't say a downfall, one of the things that I waited longer than I needed to is to have an offering for, individuals that are there. So some of the things you need to start thinking about and start thinking about this, again, even before you're booking, is depending on who the audience is. If it's businesses, if it's career professionals, what will your offering be to them? Are you offering, maybe an AI audit? If you are not familiar with an AI audit, how many of you have not heard of, and because we've talked about it, we've had some postings in the community about it. How many are not familiar with an AI audit? So say, not familiar, if you're not familiar with an AI audit. So, again, so think about, what your offering is going to be. And an AI audit, that's simply going to be, if you're going to work with businesses from a B2B standpoint, it's where you have the ability, and it can be set up a number of ways. And one, I'd encourage you to look back in our community and do a search for AI audit. We've got a number of posts in there about it. There's a number of videos that are shared about it. If you're looking on YouTube, there's a guy, I think, who does a really great job at explaining kind of how an AI audit works really well. And his name is Liam Ottley. That's LIAM OTTLEY, I believe. And Alex, if you can drop that name in the chat, that would be great. But Liam Ottley, and AI audits, he does an amazing job with them. So again, you just have to find out, am I going to be offering AI, an AI audit? Am I offering a discovery call? Do I have something to offer individuals? If individuals, the career professional, or the business owner just wants to get skilled up, not necessarily, do an audit and bring in all this stuff for his team or his organization, his or her organization, but if they just want to get skilled up themselves. So what are you going to offer? And start kind of thinking about that value ladder of things that you can provide them. Worst case, keep in mind, one of the things you'll want to do is you'll want to, anytime you do, and in my upcoming sessions, I'm going to walk through in more detail different structures, how you should consider structuring a workshop or a training. But if it's something that is not a closed training for an organization, if it's a workshop or you're at a conference, you're going to want to have some type of lead magnet that you have at the end of your presentation that you've got with the QR code to start getting people into your ecosphere. And even if you don't know what you're going to offer, again, start getting them in your ecosphere so you can start building that mailing list, that email list that you can send out to people. So right now, what I want to do is have a bit of a discussion and talk about what's your biggest blocker when you think about why you haven't been able, or why you haven't yet gone out to kind of book anything or just start having those discussions. So Joel, of course, aside, how many, again, in terms of this, I need to learn more. if I could get, whoever kind of feels like that, let me get someone to come off mute and just share what are you feeling about that in terms of I need to learn more. Why do you feel you're not at a point yet to be able to go ahead and start doing some things? Because we're going to work through this. I think last session Tammy had shared, if I remember correctly, about that's how she felt. But anybody else, if you're feeling like that, what do you feel you haven't learned yet? If you don't feel you've learned enough.
I feel like, Terry, there's just so much information out there. I feel inundated. I think like most of us probably do. And I'm looking for a way. I lived overseas for a long time, so a lot of my network was gone. I came back to the US and I feel like though I'm back in my home country, a lot of my network has moved on. LinkedIn wasn't a thing before I left. Now it is. But I'm looking more for how to kind of funnel better and more efficiently. And what does that look like? And even if it's just a couple step process that I need to lean into a little bit more, what exactly does that look like? Or, to start with, I guess.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about, have you decided are you building a consulting agency? What is it that you're wanting to do in the AI space?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I've already been doing things. Thankfully I'm not starting from the ground up at this point, but I just feel like I want to have more momentum. And whether that's 6 months from now and prepping for it now, like I'm a very preemptive person. And so I'm just wondering, what do I need to be maybe focused on, going forward the next 4, 5, 6 months? Do I keep doing the same things I'm doing? I mean, maybe that's okay, but I don't think so. I just know that like people that work in sales and things like that, they talk a lot about funnels and that's not my world. So I have really no real idea about all of that. So I'm just kind of wondering, what are some, like I said, quick steps, or if there is such a thing as a quick step, what exactly that would look like to think about.
So these bullet points here, please, we're going to be sitting, doing some hot seats with people because I want to really walk you through it. So tell me, is it in terms of what you've been doing? Because you're saying that you don't know if you continue. Do you continue doing what you're doing, or so? What have you been doing?
Strategy around risk, compliance, audit, going in and assessing, doing risk, scorecards, heat maps, the audits, as you had mentioned, really just kind of looking at businesses, whether they hire me or someone else with around AI, just getting them up to speed where they should be anyway. That's, I think, one of the most concerning things that I've been seeing consistently is that a lot of companies, again, whether they implement a little of AI or a lot of AI, they're not even in the space really to be, so it's more along the lines of strategy at this point.
Tracy, are you wanting to do more public speaking, more workshops and that type of thing?
I do that now, and I've done it a fair amount in the past, particularly public speaking. So yeah, certainly if there's a need for training, I mean, I already do it in the community, obviously. Some people might know me. But yes, some companies do look for that. Others, they just expect you to come in there with bells and whistles on, and you're just going to work some magic in a week, and then they think that they think AI is going to fix all their problems. So I don't know. I see more of a need for strategy and just getting them to think about AI and what does that really look like realistically for their business and in a meaningful way. And then they can worry about all the tools, and then they can worry about training staff and those sorts of things that generally comes later on down the pike.
So 100%, and I would say that is part of the superpower that most people, and I would pretty much say anybody who's going through and kind of part of our community and certainly going through the CAIO certification is that we understand up front the importance of that strategy piece, that governance and that ethics piece before even the training, and then the other bells and whistles, the automations and build outs and things like that. So one of the things that I would encourage, you, Tracy, and everybody, because it's so counterintuitive in the market to what other, now everybody is calling themselves an AI expert, but what other AI experts are doing and what companies are expecting is, like I said, they want the shiny object. They want the thing that they feel is going to give the immediate, ROI from a dollar standpoint, to their business or to their company. But when you can really, plant a flag about the importance of being able to look at, first and foremost, strategy, change management, governance, and probably in that reverse order. But, when you can do that, you really start setting yourselves apart. And as a matter of fact, I just came back from an AI conference that was Monday through Wednesday of this week. And that was one of the big things that was talked about was the ethics and governance part. And it's either when you're talking to, an organization and you're talking about the ethics and governance, and very few non-enterprise organizations have that in place. They are either, if you're in a consulting role, they are either going to pay you now to help them with that strategically, or they're going to pay you later when they end up just messing things up tremendously. So one of the great topics that you all could look at doing, so those who feel comfortable in it, say for example like Tracy, and I know not everybody here by any stretch you may feel comfortable in walking in and talking about governance and ethics and things like that, but Tracy, I would say start, since you know the importance of that and you're really working to build around strategy, I would say kind of start even focusing more of your outreach and especially your workshops and things on that topic. And I would be looking at, again, working with your regional, again, economic development corporations, those that are, or if it's the chamber, but EDCs for that topic is really, really, really good, because an EDC wants to typically provide that higher level of expert that comes in to have information, to have strategy, to have things that are truly going to help businesses and companies. And I am engaging, even right now, 1, 2, 3 EDCs specifically in starting with that topic and being able to do things. And if you want to, then you can tailor it even further. So like one of the EDCs I'm working with is, we're looking at putting together a training for city managers, primarily for city managers, and not even yet looking at the companies and businesses in the area. But I just want you, Tracy, and everybody else to know what you get from Chief AI Officer. It is vastly different than what a lot of people are getting in terms of training to prepare themselves to build a consultancy, because you do have the ability where you've learned to understand the strategy and the things up front that a lot should look at. And so I don't know if that piece helped or not. The other thing too that I would say to Tracy and to everyone is to, really start, if it's identify 3 to 5 areas in terms of, because we talked about them last week, like those partnerships or referral types of opportunities where you can refer back with, have referrals coming from adjacent types of professionals that, again, may not necessarily be doing AI, but they're serving your target market. Really start honing in on, like, say, 3 to 5 kind of partners and kind of referral sources, and start going deep with them and being able to get in front of groups of people. It's a lot easier to walk into again, whether it's a staff meeting, to walk into a chamber meeting, or again, a workshop that someone else has put together, than you having to build it out by yourself and then inviting people to that. Now, who feels the I'm not credible yet? You're in a group of, for, chief AI officers, and or become a chief AI officer, or to get some additional certification. Anybody feeling like, but I don't necessarily have the credentials yet, so I don't know that I can really go out there. Okay, Tammy, okay, so here's one of the things, and again, I'm going off of my experience. And Tracy, I would like to hear from you as well. And do we have any other? I don't think we've got any other CAIOs on right now. But so Tracy, I'm gonna come back to you, and I want to get your opinion on this. When I started doing the training portion, because that's what I led with, I led with training. And again, for those who this is their first time hearing me, and I don't have a tech background, and you absolutely will hear when I talk about AI, I am not coming in with a high tech background. I don't tech jargon. I have 25 years of sales, marketing, kind of business development and entrepreneurship. And that's the lens in how I viewed AI. And I trained with specifically making AI understandable and implementable for the non-tech business professional. And so by January of 23 is when I was going out. That's when I started booking my first trainings. It was immediately, again, within 2 months of ChatGPT coming out. So from January 23 until I didn't have my Chief AI Officer certification until August or September of 24. So, I went a year and a half, and again, I'm still getting booked. What I would say is, most if you're going to do workshops and things like that, or, in training, most times they don't care that, and I say, that you have the certification or not. They will be able to hear that you've got some level of knowledge in whatever arena it is that you're going to be training on. They can hear that and having a conversation with you. Now, does having a credential help? No, I won't say it absolutely helps. And again, whether it's the Chief AI Officer credential, or if it's the AI Executive certification, does it help? Yes, it does. But here's the other thing that I will tell you, and please understand this. And a lot of times you don't hear this, because especially those, again, who are in our community, we have our whole little echo chamber here. And we think every AI professional has the level of training, and when they go through a certification, if they're certified, that they have the same level of knowledge that you do, kind of going through this. And many of them don't, because right now, kind of the downside with the whole certification is, there's not, really governing bodies that are out there. A lot of them are, any really, that are truly governing and saying, okay, this program is doing it right. They're teaching it the right way. And you have so many, I call fly by night people doing a money grab, setting up some type of certification program, may or may not be great. So I say all of that. You don't have to have a certification to start. I am telling you, it was not needed. Where the certification really starts to make the difference is when you are going in, and especially to larger organizations. It would be, I think, to an extent, not all the time, it'll be a little bit more difficult if you're wanting to work with enterprise, and depending on what you're wanting to do, and don't have some level of certification. But if you're working with, SMBs, the small and medium-sized businesses, you're working with nonprofit, even if you're doing some things potentially, depending on it, in public sector, if you're doing things in more rural areas, that certification piece does not yet matter for them to see the credential. It helps you, though, to have that knowledge base that you get with, again, a certification like this. That wasn't some weekend certification type of a thing. Does that make sense to everybody? Don't think not having a certification is holding you back, because in many instances it is not. And especially it is not holding you back to do something for, the chamber or a monthly industry group meeting. So make sure you get through that. Again, get that out of your mind. I don't know what to say. Is that anybody? That, man, yeah, even if I had something booked, I wouldn't know what to present. I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know what to train someone on. I wouldn't know what to do if I was a speaker at a conference, I wouldn't know what to do it on. Is that anybody? So good. So everybody would know what to do. For those, and I'll just put out there for those that may not, or for those listening to the replay, start with the low-hanging fruit of what you know. Remember, most trainings you do or most speaking engagements are going to be anywhere from, 45 minutes to 2 hours is going to be what most of them are. And Rosie, I'm gonna come to you in just a second and answer your question. But, most trainings or presentations you do is going to be 45 minutes to 2 hours. And what you start doing is looking at what are the things that, even if you're fairly new to really adopting AI quite a bit, some things, you've learned some things. Again, look at the different things you might have learned through the trainings that we've done at Chief AI Officer. You don't have, number one, remember this. Again, this is something you get in your head. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you heard someone else train on something and it made sense to you, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that piece of that nugget right there, it really makes sense. The term I call is R&D, the rob and duplicate. Now, you don't go steal somebody's proprietary, trademarked framework. No, you don't do that. But, if somebody teaches something like in AI and you're like, oh, that's good, that's something then you can kind of put as part of your repertoire. And you can also, teach that as you have it down. Remember, you only have to be, and this is one of the big struggles, is, you only have to be, a couple of steps ahead, especially if you're doing the training and what I call like that literacy piece. If you're doing AI literacy, you don't have to be operating at a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're operating on a 3, the ones and twos that are out there want to know what you know. And you will make a vast difference in their world. You just have to tailor what you know to that particular audience. So everyone, and Tammy, everyone, we're in a bubble. Remember that we are in an echo chamber like you would not believe. You hear a lot of people in our community talking about, advanced stuff. So like when Zach and, and Rajka starts talking, Terrence, when Terrence starts talking some of that stuff, I'm like, I don't even go to, that's not me. That is way beyond my level. When Eton, that is way beyond my level. But we get used to thinking everybody operates at the level that you see happening in Chief AI Officer. 98%, 95% of those out there, they are not at that particular, that high of a level. But you just have to find, what are you good at? What are the 3 things? And this is one of the things I'll ask you. And I want you to write this down now, because I don't want this moment to pass. Write down right now, and I'm going to give you a minute to do it. What are the 3 things about AI that you know really, really well, that you're comfortable having a conversation? If you were in a coffee shop and overheard someone bring up this particular thing, you could sit down and engage with them and have a fruitful conversation. And at least one of those things, drop in the chat. But what's something that you know about AI and you feel very comfortable talking about? And don't think it has to be some high level, something about build out. Just, if you said, I know how to use the dictate function on ChatGPT or any of the LLMs. I can use that dictate function really, really well, and I can tell somebody why that is beneficial. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be a rocket science level thing. But drop in the chat, okay, risk management, drop in the chat, okay, using Notebook LM to generate presentations, excellent. Who else? Because again, I want everybody, drop one thing that you feel pretty comfortable with, that you can have a conversation with someone. Prompt engineering, perfect. Custom GPTs, chatbots, some of those that are new. I want to hear from you as well. What do you feel comfortable with? Because you're using AI somehow in your daily lives. What are you using it for that you feel comfortable, talking to your brother or sister about? Hey, sis, I don't know if you knew AI did this, but it does this thing. What would you talk to them about? Reverse prompting and reverse. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Working on Replit. Okay, and NAN. Excellent. Problem solving. Okay, water leak. Excellent. Yes. Yep. Yep. So just, how to use AI, like Heather, just for kind of what I call kind of some of the personal things in life that aren't necessarily even business related, but just using it on a personal basis. And I'll tell you as well, and Heather, and I'm glad you brought that up. Anybody else who hasn't put in, if you feel comfortable, please just drop something in. That's one of the areas right there that actually is not talked about enough. And I'm talking about to a business community, is, how to use AI just, in your regular, what I call the regular degular, your regular everyday life, being able to, and I tell people when I remember to do it, I talk about, a lot of them don't even realize you can, the whole screenshot your refrigerator and your pantry and say, hey, I need meals for the next 3 days based on what I have here. Give me some recipes to do. Take no more than 15 minutes to put it together and to cook it and make it keto friendly. Vast majority of people don't even know something like that. So remember, when you are out training people, you don't have to, you're not having to be out there and talking like the high level stuff. If you're using it just everyday, in everyday practicality, those are things people want to hear about because they don't know it can be used that way. So for everybody that puts something down, what I want you to do, because this is kind of part of, like homework, but I want you to put, for everything you put down that you're comfortable talking about, I want you to give 3 things that if you were talking about that one topic, what are 3 takeaways that you could teach somebody about that topic? So, I think John was talking about using, I think that was you, might have been John, about using Replit, I believe. Was that you? Yeah. Using Replit or reverse prompting. So John, what are like 3 things? And John, I'd love to hear from you. So if you could come off the mic, come off mute, or, jot it down. What are 3 things about reverse prompting that would be 3 takeaways you could teach somebody?
Well, hi, first off, everyone. I would say that the first thing about reverse prompting would be explaining what it is, because most people don't know what it is.
99.9% of people don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I use, and I would also then within that, I have what I created a council, or a board of advisors within my chats. When I'm right now I'm an owner at a winery here in Niagara in Canada, so I use that for just why is that important? Why does that matter? I always have create a section that after I do a prompt, why does this matter? To really help me make sure that I'm focusing and keeping on track, because as most people know, that if you start getting into a chat, it can go like this, and you just take off and go in 15,000 directions. So I look at that, and also, as an example, perplexity. For me, I use that more and more now to figure out what the world thinks about us, going out to Google reviews and TripAdvisors and Yelp as an example, and then also finding out what others are saying about people are saying about other wineries, and then looking to see what what can I do to attract that target client, as an example, that target customer, which I call Michelle, which is a lady between 35 and 65 years old that organizes everything. So all that has come through this for me.
Okay, so John, have you done any training, speaking engagements, or anything like that?
I have not yet. I'm just getting through that now. I have spoken to other people in the wine industry, and the one guy is now in Tokyo on a show, but he's like, teach my team AI, and it's like he doesn't even. Yeah, it's really eye opening when you actually start having conversation, because the people that I'm speaking to are not. They're just help me because they're over. They've booked their trip to Portugal now, and they think it's wonderful, and they may spend maybe an hour a week using AI or a chat, and it's just the stuff that I've been hacking about on the weekend with Replit and 8end, and I don't even know how to explain it.
John, the perfect example of what I'm trying to share with people, every last one of you has at least one area that you're comfortable talking about, that you could come up with like 3 different takeaways about that one area. If you can do that, you are ready to start again. And I'm talking about now again from a kind of that education and that literacy and giving, whether it's business professionals, career professionals, both of them, kind of giving them ideas of how to use it. That's what I'm saying. You're more ready than you think, because we are in the echo chamber. So please start really looking at, identify ideally 3 different areas that you feel comfortable in, and then get 3 different things in each area that you could talk about. You don't have to be, ready to go in front of the wine association of, Southern California meeting, but it might even be inviting, 3 to 4, kind of winery owners. Hey, let's get together, have lunch, have, a happy hour or something. I want to share some things with you. So even if it's starting like that, where it's more ad hoc, so you can start verbalizing what you know, that's an easy way to begin. And then the last bullet here, anybody afraid, and if you are, drop a one in the chat, anybody afraid that they'll ask a question you can't answer? And especially in, like, again, you're doing a session, you're doing a workshop, or you're doing something in front of a group of people, and somebody asks something that you can't answer. Anybody afraid of that? Drop a 1 in the chat if you are. So I'm going to tell you, you will get, thank you, Heather. That is it. You will get that. I know the first time it happened to me, somebody asked, so it was one of my first sessions, something I had, one of the sessions I had done in early 2023, and I could never remember what it was, but somebody said, Terry, what does GPT stand for? I'm like, well, you know what? Let's go look, because and it's true, I've been absorbing so much information, I don't quite remember what GPT stands for. And you're just honest with it. You don't get up there and make something up. And right then and there, and it's a great teaching point, because I always teach people, and when I do trainings, they're very interactive. I am jumping in and out of, now, not now for this training, but I jump in and out of, something on my slide, and then I am demonstrating, here's how to do it in Chat GPT or Gemini or what have you. And so since I have the LLM opened up, I'll just simply ask, I'll say, you know what? I don't know that answer. Let's see what chat says, or whatever LLM you're using. They do not think any less of you. Trust me, because you still know so much more than them. The other thing is, things change so quickly in our space. You have to get comfortable not knowing everything. You will never know everything. You have to get comfortable saying, I don't exactly, Rosie. Even Adam Lyons, didn't some things that that he doesn't know. You'll hear that with all of us who do speaking. Daigle, all of us. If it's something you don't know, get comfortable and just saying, that's a great question. I really don't know. Let's see what chat says about it, because you also start getting comfortable and pointing people back to using their LLM. And a lot of times when they, not, some of the times I make it a point of when they ask me something, and it could be something I know like the back of my hand, I'll tell them, I know I can answer that, but I'm not going to be there to answer that question at 2 a.m. Go ask right now. Here, let's ask ChatGPT what it says, because you're trying to train them to ask that LLM what's that answer. So don't be concerned that they're going to ask you something you don't know. That's just fine. Kind of moving on, and I know I might kind of zip through some of the rest of this stuff. This is just kind of going through what the issues around those blockers, in terms of, actually I take it back, this is going through some of the obstacles that may come up in terms of just having a ready enough standard. Like I was saying, you want to help your audience get just a few wins. If you can show them a few wins, you can start showing people that you don't have to have some built out framework that you've trademarked and all of that type of thing. Show them a few wins. And like I said here, list those 3 wins that, a workshop you do can deliver. Back to the partner and host. Again, we talked about that, at length in our previous workshop for session 2. So if you hadn't heard that and looking at the difference of, okay, who are partners that we could partner with? And remember, a partner is somebody who is going to be a host of you coming in, where you can come in and do, workshops, trainings, and things like that. The referral source, it might be an organization. It might be, again, like I said, an adjacent professional who can get you referred in to their target market or to their membership or to their clients. Now, when you look at these, if you would let me know in the chat which one you feel most comfortable kind of starting with and kind of going after to start setting up, again, speaking engagements or trainings. Do you feel more comfortable, talking to partner hosts, back to chambers, EDCs, and things like that? Incubators, again, that would be like SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, or do you feel more comfortable starting with referral sources? And like I said, this may be, it might be professionals, it might be businesses, it might be, an HR consultant who can directly refer you, whether it's clients to work with or opportunities. Yeah, the personal network. And yes, Tracy, the libraries are great. Tracy, why would you say, what makes you say libraries are great? For several reasons.
I can't say enough about libraries. First of all, it's a great way to support your local library, and a lot of them need support. The other thing is that just to go off of what you said earlier, a lot of organizations and libraries certainly fall under this. They're just dying for anyone to come in that has any knowledge. So, like you said, you don't have to be certified. You don't have to know 100%. You don't have to know 80%. You know more than they do, the people that are signing up for it. But the thing that I like about libraries too is that they'll do a lot of the work for you. They'll do all the advertising for you. They're just like, show up, they set up all the chairs, the tables, the signage. You just walk in, give your speech and leave. I mean, they really do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And like I said, it's a great way to meet a lot of people in your community because the audience is very diversified, generally speaking. And like I said, just a great way to support our local libraries if that's something that you're passionate about.
you, Tracy, that is a great point. So, and again, for those who are, concerned about, I don't know if I'm ready yet to get in front of a group of only, business owners or something like that. I agree wholeheartedly. Library is a great place to cut your teeth. What you have to remember, and this is the nugget that you've got to remember. The only way you get better is you have to have, and you'll hear Daigle use this term a lot, but you have to have enough at bats. You got to have enough at bats. You've got to be out there enough talking about it where you start to feel more comfortable, where you start to hear questions that people ask. And you're like, oh, again, didn't know the answer to that question, but now I do. And you will be surprised at the ideas that you get as you're starting to do things. Like I said, for folks that are, setting up something where people can come to the library and hear a training, you start to get ideas based on what people are asking on additional workshops that you can do, but you've got to get the at bats. You cannot stay behind your computer screen. And I take that back. You can, because you can do workshops. You can choose to do these things virtually, and that's fine. But what I mean, you cannot remain a spectator. You have just got to get out there and see what happens. It's not going to be the end of the world. If you do something and 2 people show up, not the end of the world. I've done something before and it was 1 person that showed up. I gave them the best training that I would as if I was training 500 people. You've got to get the at bats. And that's what my concern is I don't want you to stay kind of in that mode of, I got to get ready, getting ready to get ready. I got to get ready. I'm not quite there. So this, and again, you can take a look at this. I know because we're coming up on time. This is something that, again, whether, later this week or something that you can look at, because you'll have this, and then you'll have a resource guide that I sent out. But remember, these things are about education. And I cannot stress, and I'm glad Tracy had brought it up, people are hungry for education. That is like the everyday person, the parent, the career professional, the business owner, the CFO, or who, they are all hungry for applicable information. And I'm trying to think, it might have been Heather that had brought about just the personal things that you can do in your personal life with AI. That's something that's not being talked about enough. That I don't see that. I see everybody focusing on like the business aspects. So like I said, if you've got several ways that you're using it, go out, again, put together a little training and share that. Now, I will caution, and I'll say, make sure to kind of get a little bit up to speed on, what people, should upload into AI and maybe what they shouldn't upload type of a thing. So you can let them know, here's some things personally, or here's some best practices, and let ChatGPT tell you, what are the best practices of what somebody on a personal level should upload and should not upload. Thank you, John. I'll see you the next time. But those are types of things that are very easy, very, very easy to do. Here, again, you can see this on your own time, but I kind of put together just an outreach that can be used. Or take it, use it as your own, develop it as your own. But this just gives you some steps to really take a look at. And like I said, people are looking for it. And this is from business on down, but especially business professionals, they are looking for someone who can communicate information in not a high-tech jargon way. And then next week, what we are going to, and again, you can see all of this stuff. Oh, I'm going to go through this really quickly. So again, y'all are used to me taking more than the allotted time. This will take just a couple of quick minutes. The objections that tend to come up quite a bit are, at least I've seen, you'll come up with the budget objection. Especially, so if you're doing it for whether it's for a chamber or an EDC or, an association or something like that, you may hear that, hey, Terry, we just don't have the budget. What you've got to do is you've got to decide, does it make sense for that particular audience to get in front of that audience to do something that is pro bono, to be able to, again, start getting those reps and be able to say, hey, I did a training for XYZ EDC or chamber or what have you. I did a lot of those when I first started. But you can also, talk to them as well. And anybody who wants to talk to me kind of offline and I can kind of walk you through, you could talk to them about, you've got the ability to do like a smaller training to, you can even kind of help them think through a sponsor supported training where they get a sponsor to bring you in. You will see that a lot for EDCs and for chambers. They'll go out and get a sponsor to sponsor you to come in and do a training. So keep that in mind. You'll have some, whether it is an organization or it might be a business that you've approached that you might want to go in and try to do training. They have maybe in Q2 or maybe, the second half of the year. So not right now. Remember, you're still in sales because you're trying to get in front of that group. So you want to really start asking them, well, when is the best time when are you really wanting to have this option offered? So you can be able to follow up. Because I'll be the first one to tell you, I've let a number of things fall through the cracks, and I still am, sadly, fall through the cracks because I didn't follow up in a timely manner. And it just ended up falling off my radar. So make sure you've got a system in terms of follow up, but try to hone in on when is it that they're ideally wanting to do something. And then if they ask, they're asking, well, who are you? If it's somebody you don't know, again, you can just kind of let them know that, you are there to, and however it is, if you're educating, if you're whatever it is that you're doing, you can be able to let them know that and be comfortable with sharing that type of messaging with them. So any questions that anybody has, or is there anyone, a group or an organization you're thinking about and you don't know how to approach them and you're looking for a way to do that? But any questions? And the downloadables are different. Yep, the prior calls are available as well. I think and Alex, if you can share with them where those calls are, I think it's the VIP vault.
Okay, great. I have been waiting. I was asking Katie and Toy because the people have been asking. I haven't gotten anything back from them, but let's see. It should be in the VIP vault. VIP vault. I'm gonna just copy and paste in the. There we go. That should work. Otherwise, I will find out, and then I will make sure to have at least somebody update everybody in the group and the event about things. Yeah.
Other questions from you all? If not, I will let you go. Again, kind of to do, remember, put down what are 3 things that you're very comfortable with talking about, and then 3 takeaways out of those 3 things. And I'm gonna start kicking you out of the nest. You all need to really start getting those at bats and see that it is not as painful as you think that it may be. All right. You all have a great rest of your day, and I'll be seeing you in 2 weeks. But it will be back on that Wednesday cadence, but I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Terry. You're amazing. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Take care. Of course, Tammy, thank you. It's so nice to see everybody.